I've figured out how to cut the line at everything lately by simply walking around.
I love it.
With a cane. There was a panel I was not registered for, and I just quickly discovered, if this panel's at 4:30 and it's 4:29, I can kind of just stroll up with a cane and literally get a front row seat to some panel.
Yes!
I was recently at an event in New York, and it was all these comedians around our age at this function at the stand. And the third guy in the Zucker brothers crew, this guy, Jim Abrams, had just passed away. And multiple people came up to me and gave me their condolences on my uncle passing.
And they're like, David is such a Nepo baby.
Yeah. Well, and then I asked this table of 6 of our age comedians, is this a thing people think? Do people think Zach and I are actually related to these guys? And if so, you think this is how far we'd be if that was our dads?
We would be way more successful by now if we were actually Nepo babies.
Yeah, they're like, God, they're Nepo babies, but they're really wasting it.
Yeah. And so that's just a weird... It's just anti-Semitism in a weird way of, Zucker,
Jew.
Welcome to Yenta, everybody. Hey! The podcast that's sometimes about comedy, sometimes about Judaism, and always about gossip. Today on the podcast, we have David Zucker.
Hello.
David's amazing. We met on the internet like a few years ago.
We did.
And I've just been so in awe and inspired by everything that you put out.
Thank you.
And how would you describe what you do exactly? It's like professional comedy, social media services, and wisdom and advice and genius.
I think that's a great way to put it. I would say I help people grow their audience is the most concise way I can put it. Usually comedians, but I have since expanded my scope to businesses and anyone who has a great product but no idea how to market it. So...
Okay.
My God, every artist.
Yeah.
Every artist.
Yeah.
And you have an amazing Substack where you go into like unbelievable depth about all of these metrics. Listeners, if you are an artist with any kind of social media platform, just go subscribe now.
DavidZucker.substack.com. Yep.
Or even not an artist. Even if you just want to grow on social media in any capacity.
Yeah, it's amazing. And just before we keep going on, for the listeners, welcome. This is the world's #1 queer Jewish podcast. Huge niche. We're so honored. If you want to see more of our content, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Yenta. We're about to launch an enormous matchmaking project where you can submit your friends to be matched with anyone in the Yenta universe. So it's pretty huge.
Maybe David will do it.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
I'll sign up.
You should.
You should. Our questions are really good.
We're going to have a mix of Yenta guests and Yenta subscribers.
In the pool. And we have so many applications coming in, so there's a great pool. So make sure to get your submission in. Okay, back to David, also single, noted.
Are you single?
I am.
Okay. What are you looking for?
A nice Jewish girl.
Oh, I don't know if we'll be able to find any of those from the podcast.
None of the gentlemen out there.
Gentlemen.
What do you call them? Yeah.
I like that. We just call them Yentas.
Yeah, I saw on your last pod there was the Yenta files, and I was like, that's not quite what we're going for, is it?
I got some comments about that too. They're like, that sounds too close to pedophile.
Yeah.
I don't want to be called that.
I think that comment is so funny because it's like being like, well, I can't call myself a chocolate lover because that sounds too close to Nazi lover.
I guess that's one leap to make.
I'm like, file is a word, is an ending in a lot of words these days.
Audiophile.
This is whatever. You got me to pay for your Substack, which is crazy. Which I would never pay for anyone's Substack, but I pay for David's fucking Substack. How did you do it?
I think for me, when you want to commit to something financially, whether that's a streaming service or a news outlet, there's some sort of value you get from it. And what I try to do really consciously whenever I write anything is always have something of value to say. so that when you get an email from me, even though you might not know exactly what it is, you're going to learn something that hopefully then makes you more money. And I try to view anything that I write not as a cost, but by reading this, it's an investment in your own growth and success. And I know that sounds wanky and marketing guy speak, but I do believe that. Boo.
How did you learn how to do it?
A lot of trial and error, mostly error. For a while, I was writing without any strategy at all. It's kind of op-ed. My first 3 years of writing on there was mostly just throwing shit at the wall.
Right.
But
and did you get followers in that period?
I did, but it was mostly people I knew. So it would be like guys from AE Pie going, Zucker, great article, man.
Hey, Pie, shout out.
Yeah.
Big ups.
Big fan base.
Yeah.
Big part of our
Huge. We're going to perform live at the AE Pie.
You should just do the circuit.
They would love us.
And shout out to all of them who are inevitably watching this and going, dude, that interview was fire.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Are they really supportive?
Of course. That's what we
so
do.
Beautiful.
Where did you go to school?
University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Wow.
But all the Greek life is in
Great.
Champaign, and all the creative artsy people are in Urbana, and the campus is the divider between the creative and the fratty. It is a very specific layout.
I feel like the comedy world can sometimes feel fratty, and there's another universe in the comedy world that feels like a queer arts collective.
Yes.
Where are you, and do you ever walk into different universes?
I think it's telling that I went to Urbana-Champaign and was not quite someone who fit in either side of campus because of this reason. I think Champaign is Austin, and that's that stereotype we all have of the stand-up comedy that occurs down there. And Urbana is Brooklyn. But over there, I'm the guy who's in the frat, and in the frat, I'm the guy who is gay because he likes art. You know what I mean? So it's not quite fitting fully in either space. And I think the people who, resonate with what I do feel similarly, whether those are the exact same spaces they don't fit into or not. It's just this labels don't really feel applicable to whatever this is. And yeah.
It's like you're always an outsider.
Yes.
But you have a lot of power as the voice of truth that comes with being an outsider.
I view it as this chameleon spirit animal where you can blend into everything and code switch and pass in these different circles, but not really embody all of it. This is getting a little slightly away from how I view myself, but you all seem really secure and confident that this is what you are. But I'm actually going to go dip my toe back in that other pool again because this isn't quite giving me everything I need to get from a social environment.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense to me, especially both of our lives, like as Jews
As queer
and
Jews.
comedians
Like,
and queer people.
I thought I was the only one that was an outsider.
World's first outsider.
Yeah.
How do you feel like in your Jewish life? Do you have that dynamic as well?
How did you grow up? What kind of Jew did you grow up?
We were Reform, but my brother was a 3-time Hebrew school expulsion candidate. He got us kicked out of multiple in my hometown.
He got us kicked out?
Just, they assumed that I would also be a bad student like him. He was a class clown, very disruptive force.
What? That seems so not like him.
And so I was actually always a good student because I was forced to sit in the front row of every class I've ever sat in because I'm legally blind. And when you're in the front row of every class, you generally pay attention and absorb what they're trying to say. So I actually quite liked it. But the synagogue we ended up at where I got bar mitzvahed was not one that he ever attended because by he was long gone and already moved to LA. So I had a very
at his bar mitzvah?
Like by the time I was bar mitzvahed, he was already out of the house,
Oh, he's a lot older than you.
Or I guess he was a senior in high school. So he's 4 years. He's 4 grades older, but 5 years older.
Oh, okay.
How old
Not
are
so
you?
much.
I'm 27.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boo.
Hey, get out.
Yeah.
And what's your Jewish life like now compared to how you grew up?
I think I grew up in a very specific community of all Reformed and conservative Jews in the north suburbs of Illinois, where I was definitely aware that it was a bubble, but it wasn't until joining AEPi at University of Illinois where I realized, oh, we get bricks thrown at our fraternity house because we are Jewish.
Really?
That was not something I realized was actually something that still happened. And so I got that rude
happened
awakening.
while you were on campus? Was there something going on?
Yeah, it was all the voting to divest and the BDS and all that. And I didn't really know what any of that meant. I just assumed naively, well, we all think this thing about this place.
Right.
And nope. Turns out we don't.
Yeah,
and I didn't really engage with the faction of the house who would always go to Chabad, or not really Hillel. That was kind of dorkier, but the Chabad.
Sorry, Hillel.
Yeah, shout out. I'm sure it's cool at certain campuses. But then I took this year off where I traveled around the world with my older brother and his comedian friends from clown school, and we went to all these countries where they it's true.
Yeah.
They all went to this clown school in France, and
the clown school.
Gaulier or Lecoq.
they're the reason everyone you know goes there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
Which school?
Gaulier.
Gaulier.
Wait, what? Explain that sentence.
So my brother went there because he briefly interned at Sacha Baron Cohen's production company.
And he went there, no?
Yes.
Sasha.
So Sasha was like, if you actually want to be funny, go to this place. My brother went there and met this Canadian guy, Johnny, and this Norwegian comedian, Viggo.
I know.
And Zach, Johnny, and Viggo then started touring internationally, doing all the fringe circuits. In my freshman year of college, I was kind of hating my life at Illinois, and Zach convinced me to drop out of school and join them. And in that year,
What a good brother.
my parents were thrilled, obviously.
He's very into convincing people to drop out of learning institutions.
Yeah, that's
Specifically you, David. Specifically, you should never be in school.
I've never thought about it like that. Well, so then I did join them, and I was 19 years old and getting this crash course in the fringe circuit, and we were in Australia and Edinburgh and Norway, the UK. 19 years old, meeting all these people who 7-8 years later are finally starting to get their comeuppance. And we literally saw Richard Gadd do his show Monkey See, Monkey Do, which won Best Comedy in Edinburgh in 2016. And then 8 years later, Baby Reindeer happens. Or the show that was winning every award while we were at all these festivals was Nanette. And I first got wind of it at the Adelaide Fringe Festival, where it won Best Comedy, where Zach and Viggo's double act show was nominated, and we were like, well, this show better be good. And then, of course, it's literally Nanette.
That's cool.
It catalyzes a movement. And the other shows we saw that year, Six was a university production, then became a Tony Award-winning musical, and you're just sitting in the back rooms of pubs and watching these people perform for nobody, but knowing that you're witnessing this kind of future of comedy right in front of your eyes. And that's when I first realized, oh, I could really help all these people, because I seem to understand the extra layer of what differentiates the good from the great here. Has nothing to do with what you're doing on stage. It's how you market it. And I didn't know it in those words back then, but that's kind of how I realized where I could add value.
Oh my God. I just feel like every comedian in the world is desperate to meet someone like you.
Yeah.
Is it exploiting you to talk more shop?
I'm happy to. If you think this will be interesting, I'm worried that this is a little too
Inside baseball.
Yes.
But I think people, first of all, who cares? Second of all,
if you think it's interesting, this is my favorite thing
it's
to talk
interesting
about.
To me and us, and this is our podcast.
Let's go there.
This is why I started this podcast, David.
Right.
It's just so that I can
to get a free consultation.
Exactly.
If you were giving your standard advice to people like us who are in the 20 to 50,000 follower range, still starting out in their stand-up comedy careers, what are the sort of key things that you like to hit?
And be specific about us.
I will. Well, I did do some research in advance on both of your social profiles.
Great.
I love it.
And if we could get my slides up. I did notice that you have a mailing list now, Ray.
I do.
Separately from your Linktree, and you know how I feel about Linktree.
I know.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He hates Linktree.
You hate Linktree.
I know that is one thing I still disagree with you on. I haven't been convinced.
Well,
I was convinced.
I don't want to start
I was
drama.
like, wow,
but
we're gonna get
Let's
rid of our
go.
Linktree.
I did notice that a certain somebody on this podcast in their Linktree has show dates that happened a few months ago still being plugged in it. I won't say who. I won't say who.
Burn. Not me though.
But it ain't Ray.
Because I read your article about Linktree.
That's right.
No, you have. I mean, there's. Okay, we keep interrupting you. Go ahead.
So the way a lot of people are doing this right now is kind of copying what they see other people doing without ever asking themselves, is that actually working? And is it getting that person towards a place that I want to be? The answer is usually no. Because if that was the path, all these people would be a lot more successful. It's very mimetic. You have a Linktree, so I have a Linktree. You're posting 100 clips a month, so I'll post 100 clips a month. But there's never this zoomed out perspective, which is where I think I come in and take a quick glance at everything, and you don't even need to watch every individual clip to go, well, is this actually serving the underlying goal of why you got into comedy or why you started this podcast or why you're building an audience? And oftentimes people will have these viral clips, but that doesn't immediately mean I am obsessed with this comedian and I'm booking tickets the next time they're in town.
Yeah.
And that's the...
But that's why when you go viral, you get a mailing list.
Exactly.
You get people to sign up for your mailing list, which we have Yenta on Yenta's Instagram, which you should go and sign up for the mailing list on our Linktree.
So close.
Click the Linktree. But the thing is, how else are we supposed to put in all of our links?
So what do you think? So I love your point that it's like just copying people is not the best bang for your buck. Where do you think the best bang for your buck is?
The answer always starts with the first question I typically ask people, which is, who is your audience? And when I ask that, I am typically met with silence because it's a very non-artistic consideration for someone who always goes, well, my art is for everybody.
Yeah.
And the sad reality is, no, it's not.
Yeah.
But two, a lot of people will then describe them in a very demographic way of, females 18 to 39. And in my head, I'm like, what does that mean? And maybe that's because I come from this advertising background, or I studied that in school and then briefly worked in a professional setting at TikTok, which is a glorified ad agency. When you're in that brain, the type of person you're considering that you're targeting with your marketing, which is what I'll call your individual organic social media posts here, it has a level of intentionality from any brand or any company that it just doesn't when it's individual people kind of haphazardly chopping up an hour-long podcast into clips. There's no desired intention under each individual post of, what are we actually trying to accomplish with this clip? Is it to gain a certain number of followers? Is it to convert that many followers to our mailing list? Is it simply to get a viral video so that when I get introduced at my next mic, they can say, with over 2 million views online, what is the goal here?
That is my biggest credit.
It's the I know the exact joke you're talking about too. Yeah, the one we featured. No, it's really silly because I feel like I'm not asking these crazy life-altering questions to people, but by just simply asking these simple directional questions of what are you actually trying to do here, I find that there's an immediate shift in the frequency with which they post, the subject matter they focus on, the actual end goal that they then start pivoting towards. And really what you're trying to do is have a direct line of communication to the people who have expressed interest in hearing from you. That's it. When you are posting at random to a social media platform, at best you are reaching, 5-10% of your followers. That's why I advocate for email.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
You don't know that they open and click and engage on it, but at least they got the message.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds so simple, but if you post an Instagram story today, I don't know about you, maybe your quantity of people who check your story every day is higher than mine. I'll never get more than 10% of the people who follow me to watch my story.
Yeah.
10% would be insane if I got 10% of the people that follow me. That would be really, really high.
And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because of all those people, who knows how many of them check Instagram every day?
Yeah.
Let alone every month. We all check it every day because we're in this space.
Yeah.
But with email, it got delivered to them.
Yeah. And they already expressed interest because they signed up.
It hopefully got delivered to them because sometimes it gets sorted into their promotions folder.
Correct. Which is
so
a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah. If you were to look at Yenta as a case study, sometimes I really wonder, we get a lot of engagement on clips that are saying things that are controversial and making people angry. Is that worth it? Or is it more worth it to give something to our core audience that they would agree with?
Well, I would ask you that question. Who is your core audience?
I think it's people who are interested in queerness, people who are interested in theology with a heavy emphasis on Judaism, and how are open to how those two are intersecting.
And comedy.
Is it?
Well, part of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm wondering.
I think they wanna laugh as we talk about it. They don't want a serious philosophical debate argument about it. They want to have fun while we talk about this stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So my next question is, where do those people exist? And how can you go meet them where they are so that it's not an accident that they discovered this podcast? That's the real next
Where
step.
do they exist on the internet?
And real life. Where do these people spend their free time? How do
we
they
have
spend their money?
We have our email list with our locations.
But I mean,
but they're all over.
Specifically, is this the kind of person who's going to Shabbat services every Friday?
Right.
Is this the kind of person who, they went as a kid, but they fell out of
Both.
it? And okay, so both. And then with that, what other media do they consume? How, on a scale of, have seen every episode of Drag Race or is locked in on Daily Wire Plus? Where in the spectrums of queerness and Judaism
and listeners, please write in if we're so off about this.
Yeah.
But I feel like they love Broad City. And they rewatch it.
And they read Hey Alma.
That's a great comp.
Yeah. We should really be a Hey Alma podcast.
If you're listening.
Hey Alma.
Hey Alma.
Oh, but yeah, I think it's that progressive, feminist, Jewish/Jewish adjacent kind of person is our core audience. But I think about them kind of as early adopters. Those are our OG people, and then you need kind of those core people to spread, and then that's how you spread.
And I know you've done some live shows, right?
Yes.
So that would be the other thing I try to think about, is beginning with that end goal in mind of, are you trying to become a show, one of these podcasts that can tour live and fill big venues across the country? What is the master zoomed out plan here?
I think it's to be able to tour and do live shows that are really appealing to people who are interested in the gossipy dating world within the Jewish theology thing. And also to have a Patreon that gives us a significant income. So we've just
Patreon.com/
So we're about to launch in a couple weeks the Yenta matchmaking series, which will only happen on Patreon, but anyone can apply. In hopes that it's funneling people. Do you feel like that's a good move? Or
Well, I'm just trying to think of the existing services that you could either partner with or learn from.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The things that come to mind, right, are J-Swipe or Jews. Do you know this one?
No.
It's Jews with 2 Z's, I believe, is another app like J-Swipe. And I think of Updating as a show that is doing kind of live blindfolded speed dating that is extraordinarily popular online right now, hosted by 2 Jewish guys.
Oh, yeah? I never heard about it.
It's very popular. You should check it out because their individual episodes are very widely viewed. All their clips are super viral, and they tour around massive venues now, hundreds of seats,
Yeah.
Wow.
pricey tickets, and I would think there is a subcategory with a very different audience and clientele and who you feature on the show, where if that type of show was instead hosted by you two, you would find a radically different. You're not competing at all with them because their audience is not your audience.
Yeah.
But I would look and study what they're doing as a possible phase 2, phase 3 of Yenta, where you're actually becoming these matchmakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That would be
mean,
fun.
I know matchmaking services are very popular. I've never done it, but I know it's pretty lucrative.
Yeah, people really want it.
Well, of course. If I said like, "Hey, would you spend a couple $1,000s to meet the love of your life?"
Right,
Of course you would.
Of course.
But it is also kind of low hanging fruit in a way, which
Yeah,
isn't
ideally
bad.
you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, like for me, and we could, have different opinions on it. Like Yenta for me is more like I get to meet cool people and schmooze it up with people who would like never sit with me for an hour, but I get to like force them to do that because it's going on the internet.
Right.
So like that's really fun. And then it's been like an amazing bonus to have people be interested and excited about what we're doing.
I think this is like a long-standing question that we've had between the two of us, which is that like Ray's vision for the podcast is like comedy people who would never talk to us otherwise. And I feel I am concerned that there are too many podcasts in that genre, and that having a more specific niche of like queers and Jews is going to like help us grow.
Yeah. And you're right.
And our
for
social
sure.
media clips that are about those things do a lot better.
Yeah.
But
Well, what
like,
we're really getting at is building
middle
community.
ground between where we are, or like, what are your thoughts on this?
I think those are
We
competing
just had him
goals.
on to like tell us what to do about our podcast.
Yeah, and if you want more insights like this, please subscribe.
Yeah,
David's
and
at
hire
Substack.com.
David as your consultant.
I mean, these are competing interests, right?
Yeah.
Where what you're after is building community, and maybe
Me
that's
too.
unfair to what you're also after.
Yeah,
But
I want to build community.
I think that those are different communities that are being built
Yeah.
with those two goals in mind, and one is more about you, and one is more about the audience. Wow. Not to
Yeah, I guess you
drop a truth bomb.
I'm just selfish
But I think
person.
the reason we all listen to the shows we do is because it's like we're hanging out with you, or you've built this environment that's a really comfy hang for an hour, and I'm sitting at home eating dinner, and maybe I'm watching with my partner, maybe I live alone, maybe I'm putting this on in my commute to work in LA, whatever it is. I get to hang out with my friends right now, and all my other friends are probably listening to this too, and if I go to a live show, I might go meet some really cool people just like me.
Right. But I think
That's cool.
I think we could have both of those at the same time. Just by nature of who we are and who we want to talk to. Like
Yeah, and Shane Gillis will love the hang.
Shane Gillis, are you kidding me?
And there's a lot of good opinions about Talmud.
And all of our listeners are going to love that. Like Shane Gillis, like everyone who I want to talk to for an hour is like either Jewish or queer, usually. You know what I mean?
I feel like you book a lot of straight guys on the pod.
But they're Jewish.
No.
Who?
Ryan, Martin.
Well, they're just good comedians.
Yeah.
Fine. You're right. But that's like an
And is
exception. That's an exception, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are these like, sorry, we're really exploiting your expertise here, but like, are these competing things? Like, do you think, I've really been wondering, like, do we need to book more people and have more content that's within this like queer and Jewish niche? Because we do spend quite a bit of time talking stand-up comedy with stand-up comedians.
Finally.
Finally, someone's doing it. Brave enough.
Yeah.
Are these is talking stand-up comedy getting in the way of like growing our audience?
listener write in.
Or is there a way that these can coexist?
The answer lies in the data, and I hate to hide behind the numbers, but you are fortunate enough that the places you upload the full-length episodes will tell you with whether it's Spotify or Instagram, what generally people respond to more of.
Yeah.
And you can see on your own end, on your own time in Spotify, it seems like when we really isolate that we talk about X, Y, and Z or have guests who are of this tribe, it performs better or our audience isn't as interested. Sometimes you'll see a big spike because of the guest, because that guest themselves has an inherent interest about them. But really,
which happened with Ryan. Good case. Like, because Ryan.
Very funny.
Yeah, very, very funny guy. Shout out. But yeah, like when you get a get like that, it could help in both ways.
Oh yeah, I didn't look at his numbers.
Yeah.
Were they better?
I wouldn't say like they weren't like a Leia Forrester better.
Yeah.
But they were better.
Okay.
Leia Forrester. Yeah, Leia Forrester. Leia brings in a different game. But that's because, we have a lot of listeners. Like, she is really our like core listener guest.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
But I think ultimately the draw is not the guest.
Yeah.
We eventually, with the best case example that comes to mind is Hot Ones. The draw is the concept. The draw is not radically different based on the celebrity. It's the concept itself of this show where I get to watch this person who, again, is not some A-list celebrity, just talk to people in a creative environment that is inherently watchable. And so I think, if I were you, knowing that your audience that you're going after is this queer Jewish space, how can you add an element to the video component that resonates with those people, where it could be simply introducing an activity that is queer and Jewish, where we're all playing Maj as we have this podcast. I'm making this up, but something that we're playing Mancala.
Then you're like, what's gay and Jewish?
Yeah.
Mahjong.
And that's definitely more of the latter. But we can throw on Drag Race All-Stars in the background.
Perfect. Oh my God.
Suddenly we're having all the spots
Is
hit.
this the world to come?
Could be. But that really is the point of a video, right? Is what am I watching? What is gained by this versus just listening?
Yeah.
And I think so much of that is there's so many good and bad examples of this, but all the best ones are visually interesting just as much as they are auditorily. Because otherwise, I could just listen to this on Spotify. I don't need to watch this on YouTube.
You don't get to see our hot faces.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, is this not enough visual interest for you?
Honey.
And we switch back and forth between the two cameras.
Okay.
Yeah, they put me in 20 minutes of makeup before this.
Yeah, those aren't sunglasses. We painted them on.
For visual, everyone's what's going on.
Yeah. What's he hiding?
Should we transition to something juicier or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's transition.
yeah.
I love this conversation.
Also, how are we on time?
We're 37 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
See, it goes by so fast
Time
because we're
flies.
having so much fun. David, tell us. Oh, you go first.
Okay, I wanted to ask. I saw a clip of yours that is you conducting the world's best color war song.
Amazing.
And
what
it's
camp was that?
So spectacular.
Camp Pontiac.
Camp
Shout out.
Pontiac.
Big ups.
And one of the top comments, which I thought was so insightful, was like, "This is how I have felt collective effervescence," which is a term I love. Is that a term you feel you've heard?
It was the first time I ever heard it articulated in that comment section, but I think that is what a lot of people speak to when they think about the transcendental experience of whether it's religion or group song. Like, to me, that is choir. That is a deeply moving experience for me. But what was the rest of what you were going to say?
Well, my question was, are you someone, do you look for collective effervescence?
Big time.
And where do you find it? And are you ever able to be one of the creators of it other than in that song? Because you did an amazing job with that song.
Thank you. I think it comes from being the kind of kid who was in like 4 different choruses in high school. And I was the senior TA to the freshman chorus while I was in the swing choir and the chorale and the madrigal singers, all the Jewish kids singing Christmas carols. And I just loved it. Yeah, exactly. So I was that kid.
And we were also called madrigals.
Yeah, I don't know why that's a franchised chorus, but that was like, the all-stars of the choir.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know why. And then at camp, I was the only dude who would ever lead the sing at the end of Color War, which is where the whole camp is split into 2 teams. And I was one of the rare co-ed camps where most of my friends in Chicago went to all boys camps or all girls camps in Wisconsin. I went to this one in New York because that's where all my cousins went who were from Westchester. And when I was 8 years old, the song leader of my first team, the White Ice Age, was a guy. And I just remember thinking, that is the coolest thing you could do, is lead other people in a song that just gets people going.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to do that by the time I was a counselor. And I was finally given the keys and entrusted by the color ward general, who happened to be my counselor growing up. And now he was aware that this was something I'd been wanting to do for a long time. So he said, take the keys, go ahead. And for me, it's a lot about control in a good way. Like, I feel that when I'm entrusted with just let me cook here, I mean, this is a lot of my job, right? Is I can be pretty picky about the specifics of what you're posting or what you're doing. I think Ray finds this. I'll constantly be challenging people in their stories, replying like, is this actually what we're trying to do? What is the goal here? What are we really doing? And I think it is because I just know that if I am in charge of this thing, it will build to this successful level. And the same is true of live experiences, with any of the comedy shows I'm involved with or performing or producing. And I really think hard about getting the audience to feel that experience, because that's the whole point we came to a live event in the first place. For me at least.
Do you feel like comedy shows is now where you're creating that collective effervescence, or they're like...
I think we get there at Stamptown a lot.
Yeah. Dude, it's so good.
Yeah, I've got to see this.
Yeah.
And it's not intentional, but it really is the only other place that fills you with that sense of wonder for me. And growing up, when I would go see an awesome show in Chicago, or we'd go to Second City all the time as kids and see Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson years before they'd go on to make I Think You Should Leave, or Tim getting on SNL. And you'd come back that night, and the best sign of a good show is, I want to go write something when I get home. Or I'd go see a really awesome musical, or see the Neo-Futurists in Chicago and go, I want to go write a play the second I get back to my desk. And that's that feeling I'm always trying to provide on the creative end.
Is that, how do you balance the I don't know. I guess I'm not really, maybe I need to be a little bit more of like an intentional, like creatively control. I am very creatively controlled when it comes to what I put online. But when it comes to like the live performance, I think if I get too creatively controlled, then I lose like some of the magic that I think that I can find on stage, because I'm like, I have to say the word exactly right. You know what I mean? Like, how do you balance those two?
By not being on stage.
Oh, good. Okay, so you just get to tell people on stage what to do.
Highly recommend it.
That's good. That's fun.
Well, good.
But I hear your point. I mean, it's also that self-conscious knowing this is all going to eventually be clipped for social or whatever. It does take yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And I think it takes the audience out of that too. If we see all these cameras, and I sometimes think too hard about that of, am I just some, excuse for you to have a content farm on your own social, this random comedy club, right? Where you're surrounded by 4 cameras and you're like, wait, what is this? What am I participating in? I was here to get away from the world.
There's that guy on TikTok that just records all of his stuff in his house on a green screen.
And then edits in the sound.
And then edits in the sound. What do you think about that?
I believe he fills out venues because of it.
He does.
So we've had this conversation because I'm like, that's kind of badass.
Yeah,
I've actually changed my mind. I think
you used to.
I used to be like, I hate it, but I'm like, genius.
I would love to see if he actually gets laughs, because it's a very different
It is a
thing.
different art. It is for sure. And you see content creators who like go on stage and they're just like really awkward and uncomfortable.
It's a different skill.
So you have to build that muscle. But once you have that muscle, why not do it at home and just clip.
Do we know that he has that muscle?
I have no idea. But like we do. Like we've been on stage enough that, you know, that we could like film stuff at home and sell tickets just from that. And
That's true.
Or hopefully sell tickets from that, and then
crush a live.
I just hope he's not doing himself a disservice. I think with a lot of people, my question is always, what's the rush here?
Right. What do you think about like these comics? Like you see some like really early comics that just blow up from not stand-up clips, but then use that virality to sell tickets to stand-up shows.
It's working. I don't know about the longevity.
Tell me more.
It's not.
I have very specific examples that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of.
Who are you thinking of? And then we'll cut it.
I don't want to name names. I'm sure they're all very talented in their own right. But
no, we're not saying they're not. I actually think they're genius because it's so easy to just post like a storytelling video.
Here's the thing.
And then you don't have to go on stage. You don't have to deal with that. You barely edit. Yeah. And then you just clip viral, and then you sell tickets.
And that audience was never going to be your audience, the stand-ups listening. That audience was not competing between seeing whoever, Front Face and Jones, and some really high concept alt comedy show at the Brooklyn Comedy Collective. Like that was never the either or. The people who go to something like that very often are just people looking for something to do. And
they just like you.
And they have no idea that this isn't even a great show. I've been to these shows.
Yeah.
They're thrilled.
Who?
The audience.
No. Whose show have you been to?
I can't.
Come on.
Well, you just see it at festivals and, you know, all of these comedy festivals, whether they're in Austin or Edinburgh Fringe, they're starting to get this invasion of these TikTokers.
Right.
So
but then even like they'll get like New York Comedy Festival shows.
Yes. And they'll fill it out.
So it's not just they'll get it. It's like people who are, you know, in the comic industry or whatever, like the gatekeepers, they're letting them, you know, they're not like, oh, you're not good enough at stand-up. They're like, oh, you're viral.
Well, it's ultimately concerned with the bottom line, which is they're filling massive venues.
Yeah.
Because they have the mobilized audience, which is the whole point of posting on social media in the first place. And so I think rather than shit on them or criticize them or debate the merits of how good they are, it's learn from them.
I agree.
And whatever it is that they're doing that these other people aren't, they've actively mobilized their audience, by which I mean got them off their couch, off their ass, and into a ticketed venue in droves, in hundreds.
It's incredible. But those kind of people, they're like posting every day, like 5 times a day.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes. How do you feel about that?
I think the frequency should always match the time sensitivity of the events. And if you are actively on tour and not selling, first of all, you should really consider paid spend because it can be very effective.
Interesting.
What is paid spend?
So the way that every third Instagram story on your swipe through all those circles is an ad.
Yeah.
That is through the Meta Ads platform. And you can advertise on Facebook. You can advertise on Instagram. You can also do this on the Google Ads network between YouTube and Google. I don't really advocate for TikTok, but all these places make money because they're commercial booking agencies. Now, most of the people who do this are Tide or Doritos or whatever, but there's a lot of opportunity if you are someone selling a live event to also enter that space, hit people right where they are, hit them with a really compelling, creative ad. For comics, I always just recommend a joke of you being funny and getting big laughs. High quality footage, well shot, call to action, book now. And ultimately, that's going to be what gets you to sell those tickets, which is the whole reason all those other people, to circle back, are posting every day. Is their strategy is I'm going to post and post and post and then hope that they'll eventually come to the discovery of selling, of buying these tickets I'm trying to sell. The paid spend, the beauty of it is it's not coming up on your own organic page, so we're not being bombarded with you every day. You're only hyper-targeting these exact people who meet these parameters. And the reason I asked that original question of who's your audience, where do they spend their time, where do they spend their money, I'm asking all that because that's what informs the paid spend.
Yeah.
So all of the shows and everything you listed, we can now then go onto Facebook and say, hey, I'd like to target people who liked the Facebook page Broad City back in 2010 because for some reason we all liked 500 pages back then, right?
Yeah.
And you can literally have it not be an accident that you target queer Jews with an ad for Yenta, and then they still feel this element of discovery of, oh my God, this is exactly the kind of thing I'd be into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you met them on a completely different way than spraying and praying to the masses that this clip might reach them.
Well, I think you can go either way. Like, I think you don't even need to do paid spend if you are doing well enough that people are coming to you, and then it's like not even hard to sell tickets. You don't have to, people want to come.
I just try to compare it to other actual business products. When a new soft drink gets introduced, look at Starry, right? It's top of mind.
No idea what that
It's like Sierra Mist, but they rebranded it now, and it's Starry. And clearly they're not doing a good enough job in the queer Jewish market.
Yeah, clearly.
They have to advertise it. And so they're putting it everywhere. They have commercials. They have ads. They're partnering with this and that and this show. And I mean, Liquid Death is probably a better example of comedy.
They really crush.
They have a brand new water. So what are they doing? They're advertising it. But for some reason, comedians, and I think for me, it does come off a bit from like the outside world, a little entitled of, hey, I have a show in Phoenix. Can everyone else who follows me help me pack this out? And I see that. Granted, I follow way too many comedians, but I'm kind of like, that's not on your fans to help you sell out your own show in a market that you're undersold.
Yeah.
Go get a stack of handbills and bark on the corner outside the venue for 2 hours before the show. Like, that's not the responsibility of your existing fans to introduce them to other people in a market that they don't know anyone in. I'll do that if I love a show and love a comedian, but I'll do that on my own accord. If I see this person's mailing list and they're saying, hey, I have shows in Santa Fe and Tucson and this whole Southwest leg of my tour coming up, and I know my friend lives in Tempe, and I say, you would love this.
Yeah.
I want that to come because I think it's my idea that, my friend would love this thing that I love. Otherwise, go get those people yourself.
I think it probably does work, though.
Which one?
Like, for people, when people post, I'll just speak for myself. Like, when someone posts, like, can you help me sell this? If I like them, I'll share it with someone that I know in that area. Not even, like...
You'll personally message them? You won't just, like, story it?
No, I'll personally message someone.
But again, that goes back to, like, they got the message.
Yes, yeah. But probably because I feel bad for them because I know what it's like to not be able to
And do you find that those people will actually go to the show?
Occasionally. Yeah. Occasionally. I've recommended Stamptown to a few people, but that's just because I love it,
But that's the point.
Yeah, I know. But that Stamptown is like a different ball game, It really is. It's like, it's just like, I mean, I guess I'm not really like a clown. I don't really go to a lot of clown. I've been to a few clown shows, and it's still like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I would not use that label
and it's
because
a really
I feel like in LA
transcendent experience. It's a really transcendent, like, at least the show I went to was like, wow, we are experiencing something collectively that is just unseen, undone, not done. Okay, David, give us some Yenta before we close out.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've figured out how to cut the line at everything lately by simply walking around.
Yes! I love it.
With a cane. And this is my Ambutech.
And the glass. Listener, if you're listening, David just pulled out a full-ass cane from under the chair.
I am not a grifter.
Yeah.
I'm legally blind.
So you could do it. You deserve it.
Yeah, so this feels less of a hack and more like
So the
adequate disability
Yeah,
services.
The hack is radical self-acceptance with your own limitations. And what you'll find is this hot tip I have is if you just accept this about yourself, the red carpet gets rolled out for you and people are happy to help you once they realize you have a condition that requires accommodation. For me, that took a long time to learn because the tragic irony is that I don't notice someone else having a visual signal like a cane. I receive very little visual information from the world. So it would never occur to me that by simply walking around with a cane, I have now radically altered everyone else's perception of me. A lot of people watching this podcast probably thought, who's this douchebag wearing a hat and sunglasses this whole time?
Yeah.
The reason I'm wearing those is because there's light coming in from the window. There's a light on my right. And I can't see if I don't have this hat filtering out the top level of the light and the polarized sunglasses filtering out the bottom level. But you introduce the cane and suddenly it makes sense that, oh, you're looking at a blind guy.
Right. You're not just a hipster wearing meta glasses.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I hate how, talk about someone who needs a marketing consultant. Jesus Christ. It's really driving me nuts how they're trying to make it this like cool guy tech bro thing. And they're just wasting the opportunity to be heroes for people with visual limitations. But that's a Yenta for another time. So my hack, my little goss is, I can now just finally experience the world in a way that is deeply more fulfilling by simply leaning into the thing I've been reluctant to embrace this whole time, which is self-acceptance.
Fuck yes,
shit.
David. I'm going to cry.
It's my little tip.
I love that.
It took me 27 years to realize that
Yeah.
being yourself is actually a good piece of advice. And I think a lot of that was my own stigmas about what it means to hold this and be these terms. And I think we all relate at a
in different
deep
ways.
level
Yeah,
to-
for sure.
Yeah.
labels and what they mean and how they're just used by others to prescribe their own projections of what you can and can't do. And what's ironic is when I have these three things, when I have this hat, these glasses, and this cane, and I leave this studio and I go walk around, I'm good. I don't need someone to hold my hand and cross the street. And people are very well intentioned and they try to say, do you need help? The light is safe to cross, whatever. That's awesome, but I'm actually good. What's ironic is when I just looked like a white guy without any of this stuff, a hipster douchebag or whatever, that's when I needed the help. And that's the tragic irony of all of it.
Well, that's a very interesting point. Now, how do you make that funny?
Let's see. This could kind of be like if I was rowing. I don't know. What would this be?
Prop work.
Yeah, this could
Where-
be like,
What lines have you gotten to skip? What's your favorite?
Well, the first time I tried doing
Disneyland?
this was South by.
Oh,
And
that's
there was
cool.
a panel I was not registered for, and at all these festivals, it's very well intentioned. They have like a whole row for disabled seating, and unfortunately, there's not a lot of people with disabilities who attend these festivals for obvious mobility reasons.
Yeah.
So I just quickly discovered, if this panel's at 4:30 and it's 4:29, I can kind of just stroll up with a cane and literally get a front row seat to some panel that was literally about adaptive technology and eyewear. And so then I got to actually experience this thing that I would have otherwise needed to pay a lot of money for. We can get into the whole other layer of that with, the blind tax. And for me to actually enjoy a comedy show, the front row seats are always the most expensive. But that's quite literally the only place that I can appreciate at any level the visual component. So my own hack for getting to be able to do that is either sit in the green room, sit in the front row with a comped ticket, or work strategically at venues and with performers where I can get those seats reserved through alternative path than paying out the wazoo for them.
How is it for you when you perform?
And impossible.
Okay.
That's why I don't really do it that often.
Okay, because when I saw you at Stamptown,
I was
you were
wearing a
yeah.
covering over my face too. And that also just happens to work out nicely, but it is a challenge. I know a lot of people are blinded by the stage light up there, but I quite literally cannot see.
Yeah.
But you like just work off of auditory cues?
Yeah,
or?
and muscle memory. I'll be very aware of, okay, I have 17 steps width, 5 steps length, and okay, I can kind of guess based on whatever is being said by someone with a microphone that they're about 4 steps this way, and it's a constant calculus of where everything is within this limited space that I can work with, and it's just muscle memory.
Do you want to be performing more?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It's just challenging.
Yeah, it sounds so challenging. And you're so right that people do love to feel helpful when they know what to do for you. I went through like 4 years of pretty serious disability and ended up taking advantage of a lot of services for that. And I was always like delighted by how delighted everyone else was to be like, oh, we can fucking accommodate you.
Yeah. Well, people love to have an excuse to be the savior. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a hero. I did a good thing today. I helped a blind guy cross the street.
Oh my God. They're perfect. Yeah.
And that was great, Yenta.
That was a great Yenta.
I really appreciate.
I know
that,
it wasn't the
David.
typical hot and steamy goss, but what's funny is you don't even need to disclose it anywhere. You can just if there's a place you really want to get into, just buy an Ambitech cane.
Well,
promo code
we don't,
Zuck.
and we're not promoting buying a cane.
Of course not.
If
what
you
we're
don't
promoting
need one.
is.
But if you do need one,
use it. And even if you kind of need one, use it, and then you get to skip the lines.
Yeah.
Even if you can get away without using it, use it. Use it.
And
or just be my sighted guide, which is another trick I've learned of. Oh, can my sighted guide come? And I just bring my friend who also doesn't have a ticket. That works a lot.
That's great.
Because what are they going to say?
Do they have to get a vest?
like a dog. Don't pet me, I'm working.
Yeah. This is my service friend.
Yeah, my service friend.
He's registered. I have the paperwork. Yeah.
What's your dream?
To be paid for my thoughts at scale.
Okay.
What does that scale mean?
At a bigger level than it currently is. I think it's awesome that I have anyone who pays me for my thoughts or reads me. I think there's a way I could make that.
And you're growing so fast.
You know, I try, right? It's very intentional. But I think there's a way that I could make it a legitimate career.
Like who like a Mel Robbins?
Or what I'm not familiar with Mel Robbins.
Oh, well, she's like a big motivational speaker, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, she gets paid for her thoughts at scale, you know. But she has a book and she speaks and she goes around the country.
I would say that's
like
a pretty similar route to what I would like to have. Maybe some sort of podcast. I don't know. I just can't get over it. I feel like even on this, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like such a fucking gas bag over here. But
no,
I don't.
You've been a fantastic guest.
Oh, you sound amazing, and also that goes away. Those thoughts.
Yeah.
Actually, do they go away? I don't know. I think I just stopped caring. I think I just.
It sounds like they
went
go away.
Yeah. But sometimes I'll be editing these videos. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I was so dumb.
Yeah.
Sometimes rewatching, I'm like, well, I'm absolutely never gonna clip that.
Yeah,
that would be.
And I wish I could scrub this from the internet.
Yeah,
right,
but
forever.
I'm gonna have to post it.
Well, on that note, our future career suicides. Let's wrap this up.
Yes.
David, is there anything you have to plug?
If you're somebody who found this not too self-indulgent and nauseating, I would love to have you subscribe to my Substack at davidzucker.substack.com. I try to only reach out when I have something interesting to say, and usually about once or twice a week with some piece of advice that can help you grow, mobilize, or monetize your own online audience. And that is all I'm prepared to say at this time.
And you have some like Jewish stuff in there sometimes as well.
Yeah. I'll dip into other parts of my identity, such as being a Jew or a Chicago Bulls fan or a disabled person, whatever it is. That
so some Yentas might be interested.
Some Yentas. I would say it's a pretty Jewish publication.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's a lot of kvetching.
And it's worth and the way you pitched it was like people ask me to get coffee with them all the time.
Yeah.
People say, "Can I take you out to coffee?" And like, no,
pick my brain.
Yeah, pick my brain. Like, no, just pay me and you can you can read all my my
if
brain
it
dumps.
ever becomes so valuable that you would like to buy me a proverbial coffee once a month for my thoughts, maybe down the road we get there.
I think it's great. It's a great pitch.
Ray, anything?
RaySchiller.com/shows. Ray Schiller.
Linktree.
Linktree/Ray Schiller or Yentapod.
I'm at Antonia Lastar, but my name is Lasar. It's adorable. And you can find all my information there. And one last plug for our Patreon. In March, we're starting the Yenta matchmaking series because David has officially told us it's an excellent financial decision. And if you are single and want to submit, get your submission in now. You can find the application on our Instagram and our TikTok.
And you could be queer, and you could be straight, and you could be Jewish, and you could be not Jewish. It's for everyone.
Yeah.
And we'll match you with the perfect person for
but
you.
But you have to like Broad City.
Yeah. Exactly.
But we'll match you. And to listen to the matchmaking process, those episodes are only going to be on the Patreon, but anyone can submit. All right. That's our episode. We love you guys.